welcome back to Around the SEC, the show where everything just means more. I'm Micah Farmer.
And I'm Mia Roy.
And it was another great week of college football in the SEC. Some big matchups, Texas, Georgia, Alabama, Tennessee, and some pretty good games in those as well. Maybe not the Georgia-Texas one, though. But let's start with the Week 8 recap. Mia, how did you enjoy the slate of football this weekend?
It was quite the week. The SEC was shooken up more than it already was. I think the SEC football is just crazy this year, and I'm here for it.
Yeah, it's been very up and down. I know every time a couple upsets happen, everyone goes, it's 2007. We're not on that level yet, but it has been a lot of good games, some upsets in the SEC this year. And let's start with the big top 5 matchup, Georgia versus Texas. Obviously, Georgia came out on top, big win for the Bulldogs. What did you see in that one?
I didn't expect this. Kirby Smart said nobody believed, nobody gave us a chance. And he kind of had a point there, but Trevor Etienne, I mean, he had 87 yards rushing, but 3 touchdowns.
Yeah.
I think he dominated Texas alone.
That's the Etienne you've really wanted to see all season if you're Georgia. That's the Etienne you saw glimpses of at Florida last year. And let me tell you, never make Kirby Smart an underdog because he's going to win, it feels like, every single time. One of the best motivators in college football. And Quinn Ewers, I think, really struggled in this one. He did throw 211 yards, 2 touchdowns, 1 pick, but had a lot of plays where people are really dogging on the Texas offensive line for this game, saying, oh, these great supposed NFL tackles, they're not playing how well they're supposed to. But Quinn Ewers ran into a lot of sacks in this one, didn't step up in clean pockets, really, I think, sabotaged the offense a little bit. And the other quarterback didn't play that great either, with Carson Beck throwing 3 picks.
No, but I've said it all year, and I'll say it again. Play Arch Manning.
Oh, my gosh.
I love Arch Manning.
They put him in, he went like 3 for 6, so I
don't care.
I think it's just the Georgia defense being the Georgia defense. They definitely showed up. But you never know. We'll see what Arch can do next year for sure once Ewers is gone. But the final thing I do want to touch on this game is the absolute disaster class from the referees with the pass interference penalty that should not have been pass interference, but then the Texas fans all threw water bottles in the field, and then it got reversed.
So then they flip-flop.
Yeah, that's just – you can't do that.
No.
As a referee. You have to – even if the call is wrong, there is not a rule that says you can just go back and change the call in that situation. You have to stick with what it is, and sets a very dangerous precedent for fans just being able to throw things on the field and get calls changed. I know earlier this year, if that was a precedent, you might have seen stuff flying at Jordan Hare with some of the stuff that's happened here, although maybe that would just be at Peyton Thorne. But next up, Alabama at Tennessee. Another great game this past weekend, rivalry game, and Tennessee now has won 2 in a row in Neyland. This one 24-17, and the Vols really had Alabama's offense contained most of this.
They did, yeah. I mean, we saw Tennessee had 214 yards rushing, and Alabama had 75.
Yeah.
That shows for the difference in offense there.
Very big disparity for sure, and the thing that stood out to me was only 11 rushing yards for Jalen Milroe in this one. A lot of the reason I picked Alabama to win this game is I thought Tennessee wouldn't be able to shut down both aspects of Milroe, and they for sure shut down one of them big time.
Yeah.
Holding him to only 11 rush yards, and James Pierce, big reason why. 1.5 sacks in this game. And then for the Tennessee offense, you mentioned the rushing yards. Dylan Sampson, 139 and 2 touchdowns. Nico Iamaleava has struggled a little bit the last few games, especially with overthrowing receivers. And Dylan Sampson's just said, fine, I'm going to do it all myself. And basically won Tennessee these last 2 or 3 games single-handedly.
Oh, yeah. Dylan Sampson is just on fire right now.
Yeah, probably one of the top running backs in the SEC this year, I would say, for sure. But we'll see if Tennessee can keep momentum. Obviously, the game with Georgia looms in a couple weeks, a few weeks down the road later this season. And last time we saw Tennessee beat Alabama, they fell to Georgia later in the season. We'll see if they can maybe change that up this year.
Yeah.
Then I know a game that was a little bit sad for you, LSU versus Arkansas. This is a game I actually tabbed as my SEC upset of the week. I thought LSU would maybe have a little bit, not be locked in, let's say. They wouldn't be locked in after the big win over Ole Miss, but they were locked in. This is the best I've seen the LSU defense and run game look all year.
Yeah, I agree. I think Arkansas did look terrible at the same time, though.
They did. Yeah.
I thought after beating Tennessee, they had a chance to beat LSU, take that momentum, and I really thought they could be in the lower rankings, but ranked if they had won this game. And no, Arkansas was Arkansas. They didn't. But Brian Kelly said something I found interesting. He said that he looks for his teams to have consistency, cohesiveness, and complementary football. And I really think they had that this week. And they've had that the past few weeks.
Yeah, this I would say is the most complete game LSU has played all year. Caden Durham with an incredible game, 21 rushes, over 100 yards, 3 touchdowns. And then I know Garrett Nussmeier didn't light up the stat sheet per se, but he didn't turn the ball over.
That's true.
Arkansas turned it over 3 times. That was a lot of the difference in this game. And if you're Arkansas, this has to feel like a missed opportunity with all the hype coming into this game. You've already beat Tennessee at home, like you mentioned, and LSU is really establishing themselves right at the top of the SEC right now with their performances the last couple of
They
weeks.
are. I definitely think I have my eye on LSU, which is a little unexpected.
Well, big game for them later this week we'll talk about towards the end of the show. But next up, a game that was very fun to watch for me is Florida beat the brains out of Kentucky for the first time in a while. It felt like old Florida beating up on Kentucky. And how about Jaden Ball? #run the ball. 5 touchdowns. Florida record for rushing touchdowns in the game, tied with Trey Burton. 22 carries, 106 yards. Great game from him. DJ Lagway through the air. I had a lot of fun watching this game.
Yeah, I did too. I think the refs helped a little bit in this game.
Oh, come on now.
Oh, no.
The refs didn't make it a 28-point win.
It was 27-20. Would have been held to that. Became 34-20. I think that had some momentum for Florida for sure.
They were also just better. But
okay.
yeah, this is a Kentucky defense that had been good all season, really shut down Georgia, shut down Ole Miss, and Florida hung 476 yards and 48 points on them. So
yeah,
I think at the end of the day, that's still very impressive. And quick shout out to former Florida commit, then Colorado commit, then Colorado transfer, Cormani McClain, who finally got to see the field in this one. Such a feel-good story for McClain. Got the pick 6, got the great pass deflection, and he might earn some more playing time as the season goes on. But final game in our little Week 8 recap here is South Carolina dominating Oklahoma on the road, and Oklahoma looks lost right now.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know
Oklahoma.
either. The quarterback position is really up in the air for them. They obviously tried out Michael Hawkins, got the win over Auburn. Auburn's pretty bad. Michael Hawkins has really struggled since then. Jackson Arnold got put back in this game, and it still just wasn't enough. 2 defensive touchdowns for South Carolina, and they pretty much owned Oklahoma.
Yeah. Oklahoma also had 4 turnovers, and South Carolina had none.
Yeah, you're not going to win doing that.
No, like, that's the difference in a game right there. I think Oklahoma might be falling off the wagon, just like their wagon seems to tip every year.
That was good. I'll give you that. That was good. Well, that is it for our Week 8 recap. Now, let's go on to our winners and losers of the week. Mia, who is your winner?
My winner is Georgia. Georgia just really mixed up the SEC more than I thought they could have. I did not think Georgia had a chance against Texas, and now we don't have an undefeated team in the SEC thanks to Georgia beating Texas, and I like to see that.
Yeah, that is very cool to see always. Obviously, you still have a couple teams undefeated in conference
Yes.
play, but it's nice to see that it feels wide open right now after that game. And Kirby Smart, like you mentioned, talking about everyone doubted Georgia, usually not a recipe for success for Georgia's opponent. So I completely agree. I think they played very well. My winner of the week is Florida because I can and because they demolished Kentucky. I know people are going to want Tennessee because they beat Alabama, but I want to show my team some love. Like I said at the very first episode of the year, this is not who is the best team right now. This is who I think had the most impressive week, and I was really impressed by Florida's win over Kentucky. So now let's go over to our loser of the week. Who do you have for that?
I have Alabama. I wanted my winner to be Georgia and my loser to be Texas, but that wouldn't have really made for a good
Gee, I wonder what the outcome of that game was.
Yeah, see, but it's Alabama. I mean, they lost to Tennessee. Who lost to Arkansas?
Transitive lost to Arkansas.
See, that's kind of an issue right there for me. Also, Alabama, with the allegations of Tennessee piping in artificial noise,
Yeah.
you lost. And a loss is a loss, and they're really my loser this week.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. Neyland is one place that does not need artificial
No.
noise at all. And Alabama now, they have multiple regular season losses for the first time since Nick Saban's first season there. So all the fans are freaking out. It's what it's like to not be the best program in college football anymore, Alabama fans. My loser of the week is Arkansas. Sorry, Mia. Obviously, when I have a team tabbed as upset team of the week and they get absolutely embarrassed and then their star running back gets hurt and they get walked all over by a rival, that's how you become loser of the week pretty quickly. Honorable mention to Oklahoma for being an absolute disaster. But
Yeah.
let's move on to a new topic that we haven't really talked about yet, and that is which SEC teams can make the college football playoff as we stand right now. So I know there's a lot of SEC teams really at the top of the rankings, namely Georgia, Texas, LSU's up there now. So who do you think has the best chance to make the playoff for the SEC right now?
Despite losing to Georgia, I still think Texas does. I think Georgia's right there with them, though. I think those two teams are for sure about even.
Yeah. Texas has a fairly easy schedule the rest of the way. I think that really benefits them. I would say teams that control their own destiny right now, I would say Georgia, Texas, LSU, Texas A&M, Tennessee, and Vanderbilt, weirdly, because Vanderbilt still gets shots at Texas, Tennessee, and LSU. So if they went out, I think they're in. I think that's highly unlikely, but as far as all those teams, if they went out, they're a playoff team for sure. I think Alabama needs a little bit of help at this point. I think they're going to need LSU to win out and still lose to Alabama. So I think they need LSU to finish undefeated apart from the Alabama game for that to happen. Missouri, I guess it's technically still possible, but they would need to beat Alabama, win out, and then have absolute chaos happen. And at this point, I'm fully writing off Ole Miss. I don't think they're good enough to get back into it.
I don't think so either. I thought at the beginning of the year, it's a very outside chance now.
Yeah, very outside chance. The loss to Kentucky really killed them for sure. I think it's going to be a huge issue for their resume moving forward. But as far as who I think has the best chance, it's actually Texas A&M for me. This is a team that I really like right now. I think, spoiler alert, that they're going to really give LSU a hard time this weekend. And after that, they play no one other than Texas at the very end of the year. So as far as just getting into the playoff, I think Texas A&M has one of the best chances in the SEC. I think Georgia is right there with them, though. But now let's get into our picks for Week 9 of SEC action. And let's start with the big game of the week. And it's not College Game Day because they went to Indiana, which I like a lot. Show the new school some love. You saw it with Cal, the great turnout there. But this is the big game of the week. Number 8 LSU at number 14 Texas A&M. Who do you think comes away with the win?
LSU. I'm tempted to take Texas A&M because they seem to be on a roll. But LSU is consistent, and we haven't really seen them play anyone too challenging. Arkansas is probably up there in the most challenging games, but for whatever reason, I just have hope in this LSU team.
I don't. I'm really concerned with. I don't know. This on paper this is a team that's played very complete football, and I should regard highly. But for whatever reason, I don't love Brian Kelly as a coach. I'm concerned about their run defense versus Texas A&M and Le'Veon Moss. I think that's a very big potential issue. This game being at Texas A&M, you saw what they did to Missouri. And granted, LSU is much better than Missouri, but they beat Missouri in the side of the head with a frying pan. And this game, I think this game is a lot closer, but I think Texas A&M pulls it out. They have a very, very good defense. I think they're going to make LSU struggle a little bit. So give me the Aggies.
Okay.
Next up is number 5 Texas traveling to Nashville to take on number 25 Vanderbilt. How about ranked Vanderbilt? Do you think they pull off the upset?
No.
Dang it.
I wish they would, honestly. I'm a Vanderbilt maybe bandwagon this year, but I don't think they can. I think it's Texas. I just think that Bama lost to Vandy, Texas won't. We won't see both of them lose to Vanderbilt. There's no way. Especially after losing to Georgia. I think they're going to have a fire and something to prove this week.
Yeah, I think Texas was actually very smart because by losing to Georgia, they're no longer the number 1 team. So the Vandy versus the number 1 team magic from earlier this year does not apply.
That's true.
It's a big brain play from Steve Sarkisian there. But realistically, this is the battle of, I think, the best 2 tight ends in the SEC with Vanderbilt's Eli Stowers and Gunnar Helm from Longhorns. I would expect them both to play well. The Texas secondary is, I still think, one of the best in the SEC. They shut down Carson Beck. They just got destroyed on the ground, turned the ball over. So I think they're going to be able to limit the passing game of Diego Pavia. Obviously, the Vanderbilt option attack can be a bit difficult, so they're going to have to stay disciplined. But the athletes, Texas has a receiver in Isaiah Bond and Ryan Wingo. Vanderbilt just doesn't have that speed. I think Texas pulls this off on the road. I think Vanderbilt's stay as a ranked team is unfortunately short-lived.
I know, yeah. But they're ranked, and that's something for Vanderbilt.
It is cool, yeah. First time I think since Jay Cutler was there that they've been ranked. I don't remember if they got ranked then or not, but I'm pretty sure it's the first time since then that they have been ranked.
Yeah.
Then next up, number 21 Missouri traveling to Tuscaloosa to take on number 15 Alabama. This is a game that I thought at the start of the year would essentially be an SEC semifinal game along with Georgia versus Texas. Both of these teams have been disappointing this year. Obviously, Missouri coming off the comeback win versus Auburn, and Brady Cook playing through injury. Alabama coming off the emotional loss in Neyland. Who do you think takes this game?
Bama. I wouldn't be utterly surprised if Missouri took the win, but I think Alabama, they need this win, and I think they know they need this win, so I think they have this game. But We need Nick Saban to not say anything about Alabama. It seems every time he says something about them, he, unfortunately for him, jinxed them. But I think ultimately Alabama is going to take this, a desperate win.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think Missouri's going to be too one-dimensional in this game. Nate Noel, their starting running back, has been banged up off and on. Did play good bit versus Auburn, and then you don't know how well Brady Cook's health is going to be going into this game. And if Missouri's one-dimensional, and I think Alabama's going to be able to cover Luther Burden, and Missouri hasn't been great at getting the ball to Luther Burden anyway, at least deep down the field. I think the Missouri offense is really going to struggle, kind of what you saw versus them in the Texas A&M game, and I think Jalen Milroe bounces back big time here because the Missouri defense has struggled versus the run and versus the deep ball, and those are the two worst things you can struggle against facing this Alabama team. So give me Alabama fairly convincingly, I would say. Then finally, a game that is on here just because one of the teams is ranked, honestly, that is Oklahoma traveling to Oxford to take on number 18 Ole Miss. Who do you have, and why is it the Rebels?
I have Ole Miss.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be an underwhelming game, but I think Ole Miss is going to win by a good margin, I would say. I just think Oklahoma has lost the spark. For whatever reason, they've lost the fire, and LSU, they're going to win, I think, but not super excited to watch this game play out.
Yeah, I'm taking Ole Miss as well. Oklahoma's lost their offensive identity completely. You know what they say, if you have two quarterbacks, you have no quarterback. And that's really been a lot of the struggle for Oklahoma this year. The defense is playing their hearts out. They just can't keep this team in the game because the offense flat out can't move the ball. And against the Ole Miss offense, it's good at capitalizing versus mid to bad teams other than the Kentucky game. Other than that, the bad teams they played, they've really beat up on. I think that Ole Miss is going to want to make a statement in this game and say, we are still a player in the SEC. Everyone's kind of forgotten about them after the LSU loss, after a bye week. But I think they bounce back. I think Ole Miss takes care of business versus Oklahoma.
Yeah, I think a rested Ole Miss team is dangerous for Oklahoma to face.
Definitely. But that is all of our picks for Week 9 of college football, and that is it for the show this week. So thank you all for tuning in, and we will be back next week for Week 10.